If you like what we do here on Skiba News Nation, please like and subscribe, and also share with others so we can grow the biggest truth-seeking community on the internet. Huge shout out to all of our Patreons out there. If you like bonus content, you want some extra Skiba News Nation stuff, please go to patreon.com/Skiba News Nation.
Welcome to Skiba News Nation, bringing you unfiltered views, news, interviews, discussions, and more. And now, here's your host, Jeremiah Skiba, award-winning musician and son of Rob Skiba.
With the son of the legendary Rob Skiba. Jeremiah Skiba, what's up?
With my great and insightful co-host, Mr. Jake Graham. It's like I don't even want to wake up.
He's on a quest for truth.
Hey Skiba News Nation family, we have a very special guest today, Micheal from the YouTube channel Sling and Stone. Welcome, Micheal. We're so happy to have you, and how are you doing?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here, and I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Doing well. Can't complain. Yeah, for our audience who may not be familiar with your work, I mean, we're very familiar with your work because we show it sometimes because it's so good. Can you kind of tell us what kind of content you create and where they can find your work, just to start off?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the main kind of objective of my content is just to talk about Jesus Christ and to prove that the Bible is real through either current events, conspiracy stuff, or like supernatural events that I believe are happening in the earth or have happened in the past. And, that's kind of the majority of what I do, all with, again, the intent to get people who are either interested in the supernatural or people who follow other religions to realize that the Bible really has all the answers. The prophecy, the supernatural stuff all proves it. And so, yeah, that's kind of my main objective. And on YouTube, on Sling and Stone is where I post the majority of my content, and then all the other platforms like Instagram and TikTok as well.
That's awesome, man. Do you believe in like Bigfoot, Mothman? Like, do you believe that they're real? Because I've done so many segments on Mothman, and I've heard so many sightings of Bigfoot. And if yes, do you think they're a part of like the Nephilim?
Yeah, that's exactly what I believe. I do believe they're real. I think way too many people see either, Bigfoot or UFOs or Mothman or different cryptids for it to just be that all these people are making it up. And yeah, I think all of it, the Bigfoot and again, UFOs and alien abductions, all that stuff, all ties to the Nephilim in one way or another, whether it's fallen angels doing it or their offspring, or somehow they're breaking in from the reality where they're imprisoned, or it's part of a greater deception, but all tied to the fallen realm. I don't think any of it's good or creatures that evolved or anything like that. It's all some sort of evil spiritual force.
Right. And there were like a couple sightings that were like recent, like Chicago, I think is when it was. I did a second History's Mysteries on it. And it was pretty creepy. Like some of the people that saw it, like they just got bad vibes. And it was just happening like last year. And it blew my mind that it's still happening. So,
yeah, it's wild.
My wife and I just packed out our house in Centertown, Kentucky, and the diner just down the road is called Sluggo's, Grill or whatever, and they were a Bigfoot-themed burger joint. because apparently there's been so many Bigfoot sightings in our area of Kentucky, there in central Kentucky, that they themed it after the restaurant after Bigfoot, right? And we'd always get a kick going down there and sitting at the diner, and they would have these little pamphlet things on each table that would have eyewitness testimonies of people that would come and eat at the diner and would fill out their personal eyewitness testimony. And I think the most recent, like close to home sighting we got of Bigfoot was a guy was smoking a cigarette off his back porch, and he went out, into the woods a little ways, and he started hearing, I guess it was knocking on the trees, and then he heard this blood-curdling scream. And it was all the fuss. Every single neighbor heard about it because he was just down the valley or whatever. And I think it's so interesting. And I think the connection with Nephilim is also an extremely fascinating tie-in with Bigfoot. And there's a resurgence of interest in Nephilim recently because of that new House of David series. And they had Goliath and his brothers in that series. And so a lot of people are looking into Nephilim. And I know you've done a little bit of research into that. One of the first videos I shared from your channel on Skiba News Nation was one of the testimonies of a guy seeing a tall giant down in South America. Maybe you could share some of your thoughts on Nephilim and where are they? These things are so huge and they're sightings, but I don't know. And how is that tied maybe to Bigfoot?
For sure. I mean, yeah, it's weird how all the Bigfoot sightings and what I think are like Nephilim sightings are all pretty much the same, where people see some massive creature or they hear it or it's like throwing rocks at them, and then out of nowhere it just disappears, or people are tracking their footprints and then the footprints just even in the snow, they're just out of nowhere gone. So that's where I start to believe that these things are for sure connected to the Nephilim when it comes to like Bigfoot. And it's very similar with how people, experience UFOs and alien abductions. It's the same thing. They're there in the sky 1 second, then they're gone the next. They're coming in and out of the reality. People can't, they don't know where they're going or how they're getting here. And so that's how I think it has to be, it's acting in a spiritual way. And it's very similar to just other types of, supernatural forces or spiritual forces that we know are at work. Even with God, the power of prayer, miracles, or when the Holy Spirit comes into a situation, you can't see it, you can't predict it. It's like there one moment and gone the next. That's why, to me, it seems very spiritual in like all of these sightings. And there has been quite a few different Nephilim or Bigfoot sightings. Again, I believe the same. I can't remember exactly what the South American one was exactly. Maybe you could let me know, but there's been quite a few in the past few years where people have had some pretty like legit seeming testimonies and even some video footage of huge things walking around in the woods.
Oh yeah, that video I was referencing was a gentleman who was doing some mission work, I believe, somewhere in maybe Argentina or something like that. And he looked up and saw a 20-foot giant standing on the hill. And I believe the testimony was, he just stared at it for a good 30 minutes or something, and then goes over and tells his buddy, and when they all start looking over there, this big creature just kind of stoops out of view. But man, really interesting, really interesting.
That's right.
I don't know how familiar you are with Jeremiah's father's work with Nephilim. He was one of those forerunners talking about Nephilim and their relation with the Tower of Babel and interesting, pre-flood kind of topics. But we love all Nephilim talk here. It gets really into the interesting parts of Scripture that are more reminiscent of like mythics and lore, but what I think is so interesting about we see more evidence for Nephilim giants, and they're finding bones and different things like that. It's bringing an authenticity to the Scriptures as it's being proven giant beings actually did walk the earth, and I think that's what's so cool about it for me.
Yeah, for sure. That's what's coolest about it to me as well. And I did watch Jeremiah's dad. I've been into conspiracies and Bible, truther stuff or end times prophecy stuff for so long. And yeah, I used to watch Rob Skiba all the time, and I was interested in all those obscure different theories that make the Bible, come more alive in a deeper way. For sure, is just super interesting to me as well.
Have you guys heard of the Rockwall? It's actually really close. I've heard other people bring it up to me that my dad always wanted to go there, but there's in Rockwall, Texas, it's named Rockwall because there's a giant rock wall. And I was going to go to the museum because they have like a recreation of it. It's on private property, but there's no way. There are reports that they found a skull that was much bigger than a human skull, and there's no way a human could have built this big rock wall. Do you guys know anything about that?
I've heard a little about what I think you mean, where I think a farmer was digging on his property and found this huge wall, and then they kept excavating it, and it looked like stones were being stacked on top of each other. Yeah, it's really interesting. That's kind of happening more recently. There's also one in Montana called the Sage Wall that is on private property that looks like massive Baalbek stones or stones from Cusco, where they're all stacked on top of each other perfectly. It's wild stuff.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to go out there and film that sometime.
For sure.
Yeah. I know that there's some stories of them finding ancient Hebrew on stones they found in the earth and stuff. But I can't remember. Is the rock wall the one where they wanted to excavate further, but they were prohibited for some reason, and they're there's something down there?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird that they named the city Rockwall. I mean, they named it after a rock wall that they saw, and it's just been named that. I mean, that's literally the city name. It's just 20 minutes from me. It's just so weird that they just won't let them dig any further. So
that is weird. And I think, they didn't they find a stone there with Hebrew on it or something? I think that was from the same place.
That could be right. I haven't done a whole lot of research on it, but I'll definitely look into it when I do go out there and hear what they have to say. I mean, awesome. I'm always curious to hear what the locals have to say, because they, when I went to Aurora, Texas for the first alien crash, there was nobody out there, and there's an alien buried in the ground at a cemetery, and I went there, and it was just the most crazy thing because nobody wanted to talk to me.
Wow.
And
yeah, crazy. It's true. You get the most from the locals, because even there's rumors that there's Nephilim giants or Bigfoot or whatever, living on the Solomon Islands, and all the people there, whenever I made videos on it, people in the comments section who say they live there or they have family there or whatever, say everyone believes that there's in the caves there are massive creatures, and the giants, they refer to them as the giants. So the locals always have good info on that stuff, if they'll talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, since we're talking about Nephilim, and since you have watched Rob's work, he dived into a lot of the topic of the corruption of flesh. And there's actually a news article that I'm going to be covering in this coming Friday's episode of Skiba News Nation, and it's tied to the resurrection of the dire wolf species through kind of, genetic manipulation stuff. And, what are some of your thoughts on the current state of just the abominations they're creating in laboratories, and how does that play into end times, and what's some of your thoughts on that whole topic of, superhuman soldiers or whatever they're trying to cook up in a laboratory, and what does that mean for people today?
Yeah, absolutely. That for sure is probably the center of the goal of the fallen angels or the Nephilim, is to corrupt the genetics of human beings. And that was their desire from the beginning, when the fallen angels came to the earth and they created the giants with the women of earth. It was to corrupt humankind. And that's why I believe in the Bible we have the long lineages that when you're reading them are extremely hard to read. The names are very hard to pronounce. And it's what's the point of God putting this in the Bible? And I think it's because if that wasn't in the Bible, then the evil people of the world would say Jesus was fallen, he was some sort of a fallen angel, and we even see that with the ancient alien people saying the same thing, that Jesus was an alien from another planet or whatever. And that's definitely the connection that they're trying to do. And we're seeing it, like you mentioned, with the dire wolf, or even a few years ago they mentioned, I think, it was like a goat that could make spiders' webs with its milk or something. And the Book of Giants says the same thing, where it's like the very few fragments that was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls of the Book of Giants says that the fallen angels were using miscegenation, which is like mixing DNA, and they were creating giants and monsters. And the monsters were even speaking and having, and that's why I believe every ancient culture also has half human, half beast, or they all talk about giants and none of them were supposedly talking to each other, and then science says giants don't exist. I mean, for sure, the corruption of humankind, us made in God's image, what is the whole goal of pretty much all evil, probably at the end of the day.
Yeah, I love the concept that truth is sometimes stranger than fiction, right? And I know some of the recent announcements, especially since the Trump administration took office, is linking AI technology with the ability to crack the genetic code. Maybe you can speak to some of your thoughts on AI and how this is all leading to something. I mean, I think definitely people are aware that AI is changing the game, but what are some of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that AI probably has a pretty big role in everything going on towards moving towards the end of days and the last prophecies to be fulfilled, which kind of, all of this really points to. And again, it really goes back to, we were made in the image of God, mankind was, and ever since then there's been a war on humankind, and Jesus came in the image of man to save mankind. And of course, if evil knew that was what was going on, they would have not allowed Jesus to go to the cross, or they would have tried everything they could have. Of course, they would have failed. And it's continuing this very day in every single way that they're doing, with the merging of, again, these different species. And then now, with what we're seeing with AI, people wanting to merge with machines. Then we have strange prophecies in the last days about people are going to be worshiping the image of the beast. The image of the beast will be speaking, and people are all going to not be able to buy or sell unless they worship this image of the beast somehow. And I think it's kind of, there's really no other way to picture that scenario unfolding than with AI and the technological advancements that we're seeing today.
So what do you think about the recent revelations of the pyramids? I find that really fascinating.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I wouldn't be surprised if there's something deeper or something more underground there. I'm sure there's a lot going on underneath the ground in Egypt or all around the world that, we don't even know. I mean, even if you look at the pyramid of the sun in Mexico, this like massive pyramid, and you look at like a picture of it from the 1900s or like early 1900s, it just looks like a mountain, and you would never think that it's a massive pyramid under there. But then they, excavated it, and there was this massive pyramid there. So I would not be surprised if there's something big going on under Giza. And if there is, even the pyramids themselves, I believe, were built by fallen angel understanding and their offspring, the giants, as well. I don't think humans had any role in that whatsoever.
Right.
Yeah. The subterranean
What do you guys
aspect
think?
of it is super interesting, just because if they can build up and make this massive pyramid structure, then likely they were also able to make some pretty elaborate things under the earth. And I know there's a whole slew of cultures that have deep underground dwellings and interesting like hollow earth theories. And I know one of the theories about what was found in Egypt, that a lot of people talk about, it's free energy, Nikola Tesla, ancient technology, and that's cool and all, but I'm more interested in the library that they claim. It's this lost ancient library that contains possibly like pre-flood documents or something, and that to me sounds like really profound. Like if we could get our hands on some of this stuff that's down in those vaults. But like you said, if the fallen angels are the ones that motivated the building of this structure and, put whatever they had, sealed away down deep below, they probably put it there for a reason. And so I think, we got to be very skeptical of whatever information comes out once they unveil whatever is truly beneath the pyramids.
Or it could be one of the oldest skyscrapers ever. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, those pictures of it show it like going way underground. It's pretty crazy, like taller than that building in Dubai, the tallest building in the world. And yeah, I think they say the Hall of Records, the rumored Hall of Records, could be underneath there. I think that theory came from Edgar Cayce, though, which is like, you guys may know, he's like that kind of clairvoyant prophet guy from, I think, the early 1900s who had all these different, supposedly gave these different accurate prophecies, and he's kind of like a leader of the New Age. So I'm not sure if the Hall of Records has a real history of, the past, but even if there is massive chambers underneath there, maybe there will be some sort of the ancient past, some sort of history of it that we can find, because it would be really amazing to at least hear some of the stories. Again, we couldn't look at it as like a new revelation from God, I'm sure, but it would be maybe more knowledge about the past of like the pre-flood world.
Yeah, what are your thoughts about the strange things like orbs and UFOs? I mean, I've noticed that like with the orb topic, even with L.A. Marzulli, last time we talked with him, he was still talking about it, but a lot of people have completely stopped talking about it. It's like it never happened. The drones and the orbs, they never happened. So what do you think that's all about?
Yeah, it's wild that story was so huge, and then it just completely went away with no real answer. I think like the White House press secretary came out and said, we know who's doing it, and they're not a threat to America or something like that as far as the drones. But I mean, there's definitely drones flying around, and you could see they're like practically airplanes or drones or whatever. There was a mixture of a lot of that stuff, but the orbs is where, again, my belief is that we start to see these fallen entities that are deceiving people through them revealing themselves as UFOs or things from another planet. I don't believe in aliens from other planets at all. Before I was saved, I was deceived big time by the ancient alien stuff, and I used to see UFOs all the time. I thought I had like a connection with them. I could like feel their presence, and I'd go see them in the sky at like early times in the morning. It was really odd. And then when I got saved, that completely stopped. And so I 100% believe that all the orbs, all the UFOs, all that stuff is like a spiritual deception that will fully play out more into the great deceptions of the last days.
Right. I think all these UFOs are coming out of the ocean, and I've seen a lot of reports on that as of recently. So maybe they're coming out of, something in the ocean. We know very little about the ocean, which is pretty interesting. They say we know more about outer space than we know about our own ocean. So why is that? Just makes you question things.
Yeah, it does. I mean, there's like videos of like tons of these orbs coming out over the ocean from New Jersey and stuff. And yeah, for some reason they're always hanging out around water, like the Tic Tac UFO or Ryan Graves, pretty much every military whistleblower or whatever who have come out all say that these things are seen around the water, coming in and out of the water. So yeah, there's something very strange with these orbs or the UFOs and the oceans, or just even bodies of water around the world.
I know I've seen some of your videos talking about these kind of new age Christian leaders that are talking about these signs in the sky and things that happen. Either they're making prophetic calls to action or they're making predictions. And I like where you come from, being a fruit inspector. And I wanted to ask, in the day and age we live in, the scriptures prophesy many false prophets showing up. And we live in such an interesting dynamic of the changing of the guard, so to speak, in American politics, where conservative voices are being kind of catered to a little bit more. But sometimes we find that whenever people get what they want politically, it lulls them to sleep. And so, kind of to my question is, how do people prepare for the multitudes of false prophets and people that are going to be speaking lies and signs and wonders from the legitimate and the true? I mean, there's so many truthers out there. How do we know who to trust?
Yeah, that's a good question and a good point, and something I'm constantly thinking about as well. The two main things that come to my mind are that, we're all people and we all make mistakes, and that's why Jesus came. If we could be perfect, we wouldn't need Jesus. So we do make mistakes, and there's good, well-meaning people who teach wrong things, and I'm probably one of them also. But just reading the Bible a lot, I think, is the main thing that we can look to as to how to trust what somebody's teaching, or kind of the points that they're trying to make. Because, we make mistakes, but the Bible is the absolute truth no matter what day. And it's sad to see, because, like, personally, I believe in the supernatural world of, obviously, the good side. I believe in God's miracles, healing, power. I believe in all the gifts of the Spirit. I think that's all still relevant today. And then, we see the evil supernatural stuff as well. And there's a lot of people who just say things, and how to trust them. I think it has to, if the Bible counters it in any way, we have to trust the Bible over what anybody's saying at the end of the day. Because eventually there's going to come a day where there will be these false prophets and false teachers who will not only be saying things that seem real, but they'll also be performing miracles and signs and wonders with them. So anybody who doesn't just trust the Bible, even beyond what their eyes see and ears hear, will be led astray by the deceptions. So I think praying and being in communion with God, like make prayer a lifestyle that we're constantly in. Worshiping God is super important, I think, in our connection with the Father, with Jesus and the Holy Spirit, and then reading the Bible all the time. And I think if you're just filled with God, then you will be safely directed the best you can.
Yeah, that's a good way for people to start, is just get into the Word, especially if they've not been reading it. And since we brought up AI earlier, I wanted to follow up kind of this question of how do we know who to trust with the rise of AI spirituality and people looking to AI as some kind of super intelligent Bible study partner. And it's not to say that right now people can't use ChatGPT or whatever to get a list of Bible verses for a certain topic or this or that, but very quickly it's seeming that it's starting to replace kind of organic preaching or teaching as people start to depend on AI for their belief set. So what's your thought in that, and kind of the culture war of America, and how more and more AI is becoming an everyday part of our intellect?
Yeah, that's even something that I was recently thinking about, because I'm like, well, why wouldn't I maybe just try to use ChatGPT to help me structure videos and do things, because it's probably way better at doing it than I am, at the end of the day. But then, you lose that spiritual and human, that human and spiritual, which God intended us to be, spiritual beings. You lose that connection. So, and it is weird, and it is kind of scary to see that some of these even churches are, you guys probably heard that there was like a church who had a worship one Sunday that was entirely done by AI. And I think there was another church that had the whole sermon, or the guy gave the sermon and said, well, AI wrote that whole thing. So it's very strange to see. And I think we're kind of in the phase now where AI, because also AI is can be super helpful, like, to me, because like when I'm pulling up video or images for videos, and you just use like whatever Google Images, it's like the same ones, and most of them are like from like the 80s of drawings of Jesus and stuff.
Yeah.
And it just helps to have like these generated images of Bible stories. It really just helps with, structuring videos and stuff. But I think we're at a key point, or we're getting close to it, where the next level of however AI connects to humans is the one that's going to be probably pretty risky. And I think that when we start to completely lose our absolute freedom of choice or freedom of whatever, freedom of internet search, freedom of speech, our human freedom, when we start to really lose that and that starts to take over, is when we got to really, I guess, watch for what's coming next.
Yeah, I think AI is gonna be more powerful than DNA evidence. I think a lot of people are gonna be convicted based on, deep fakes and AI and things that they said and all that. I think it's a very scary thing, but like you said, it is very helpful for creators. I mean, I'm dyslexic, so it's easy. It's always been hard for me to, structure something in a certain way, and I can use it for that, but it could be used for the wrong reasons too. It's just like anything,
For sure. Yeah, and like you mentioned, I think with the deep fakes and all that stuff, or even with the revelation of the UFOs when they fully reveal themselves, or the Nephilim, or however that unfolds, I think it's the same thing like you mentioned. Like, it could be like aliens showing us videos that they created Jesus and all the religions, and people will believe the lie, the Bible says. So I think the realm of deceptions that's coming, or the possibility of deceptions, is just, astronomical to think about, really.
Over the past couple years, we've seen the increase of censorship on platforms like YouTube, and especially in 2020 with the medical mandates and such, and all the things that have happened, even up till this year. We're seeing constantly accounts being scrubbed from the internet. And I can't help but to wonder if the reason is they were setting the groundwork for AI that would eventually plug into the plethora of internet information. And in some of our shows, we've talked about how truth is only what's uploaded, and so it's always going to be subjective to the preponderance of evidence that is being fed. And I wanted to ask you, have you encountered any struggles with censorship with your YouTube channel, and what have you found is the hot topics with your content production that they don't want people seeing or listening to, or whatever?
Yeah. I mean, I've been making these videos for quite a while on my channel, and when I first started making YouTube videos, I was way more conspiracy oriented than Bible oriented. And so, yeah, man, even back in 2016, they were flagging channels, flagging videos, demonetizing videos, and taking down channels. I mean, I'm sure you guys have, especially, with Rob, being your father, and you guys just looking into this stuff for so long, for Rob, for Jeremiah. I mean, just the change of concepts and stuff that's gone on. I mean, there's some things that I won't even say now on your guys' channel to not, get you hurt, or things that I would never say on my channel because I know it'll be instant video down. So yeah, it does suck for sure in that regard, because there's no real. It sucks in the regard because YouTube used to be where you could literally type anything you wanted in the search bar and you'd get whatever video had the most relevant information on the topic, even if it was just some guy in his basement or whatever. And so they've really cracked down on that, and it does suck that there's really not a platform where you can just type something in and then get information back. Honestly, I think that's what the TikTok ban is about. I don't think they care at all about China getting information. The majority of the apps that we download on our phone, they all say it records keystrokes, it can access your images. They don't care that China can do that. China could do that anyway. I think TikTok actually has quite a bit of truth videos that not see on the homepage of YouTube or anywhere else. And I think that's the reason they want to ban that. So yeah, that definitely goes on. I think at the end of the day, if you just do your best to make the best content you can, and just don't stray at least from the truth that you truly believe, I think that's really what matters. But yeah, there are some things that I believe that I'd never make a video on because I know it would get taken down, and that does suck.
Yeah, they've completely demonetized my dad's channel, and they gave us a strike for a video that we did like 2 years ago, and it was like somewhat recently, and I was like, how can you do that now? Like it was viewed by a human, you said, and then I like to get into it with the YouTube people because I like to play them at their own game, but they just
yeah.
I don't think any real people work at YouTube. I think it's all bots or probably AI now.
Yeah, I think for sure. I mean, whenever you deal with that, it's like that. It's insane.
Yeah, we've got the reptilian overlords that we're very grateful for the platform. Thank you. But you never know, what they'll pull. But
yeah, it's true. I mean,
there's.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna say they'll do that. They'll just come in and the same thing with me where I'll just randomly just get videos that are like 2 years old will get taken down or we'll get a strike or a copyright thing, and I'm just like, no one's even watching that video at this point, first of all, and what's it triggering? I mean, it's weird, and it's weird to have so much invested in a platform, right? I mean, it'd be nice to have an alternative. Rumble really isn't quite there yet. They could be. Hopefully they'll get there. That'd be nice.
Yeah, that's the number one thing people say that subscribe to us. I wish you guys were on Rumble, and I say we are on Rumble, but Rumble isn't. I mean, YouTube is the platform, and a lot of people that aren't creators don't, they don't see it that way. But I don't know.
Yeah,
just
true.
YouTube's the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And Rumble's algorithm is not good, and they just push political stuff, and that's it. And there's I don't even understand their algorithm at all, so I don't even really try anymore.
Well, we asked you a couple questions, but since you're so well researched, I mean, your variety of topics that you cover on your channel is expansive. I'd love to ask, what is on your radar personally? There's so many world events happening currently. You have so many changes politically and all kind of stuff. It's almost like too many balls to juggle to pay attention to every awesome, interesting, nuanced topic. But what's on your radar lately? I mean, what have you been paying attention to?
Yeah, I mean, I really like to kind of look into some of the older stuff or just things that I'm kind of interested in. But as far as what that's always on my radar to kind of gauge what's happening in the prophetic timeline, because that's what matters the most to me, is Israel, really. Because, I didn't even understand, even after being a Christian for years and years and years, that Israel and Jerusalem are the absolute center of almost every end times prophecy that's said to happen in the future. You can tie it to Israel or Jerusalem practically in almost any way. Over 90% of these end times prophecies. So watching, and we can see it in the news now, how constantly, even though Israel is so small, they're always in the news. Everyone's always talking about Israel. There's always something new with Israel, whether it's Hamas accepting a ceasefire now, or their potential to get now involved with the war with Iran, which we could very well be involved in as well. So yeah, as far as watching the prophetic timeline, Israel and the third temple and now the red heifers, which all that stuff kind of ties together. That's kind of what I'm always watching to at least gauge where we are in prophetic timeline.
Yeah, we always see a pattern historically of these world events that directly tie to the land of Israel happening oftentimes around the biblical feast dates. And so since we're coming up on the Passover season in the next week or so, my radar is on high alert, so to speak, because that attack that happened on October 7th that started the Hamas Gaza Strip war with Israel, that happened on a fall feast date. And so, you often see, big moves get played out on biblical feasts. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. And there was even, Purim happened on last month on March 9th, I think it was, or something like that. And then there was there was a blood moon on that day. And some of the Jewish feast days do actually follow also astronomical signs, like on new moons or full moons or whatnot. But it is really interesting that these things are happening. And yeah, we have Passover now in just a couple days. I think it's April 12th. And yeah, it's actually a video I posted today talking about the potential of war with Iran now with Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu is meeting with Trump right now. And then one of the main things they're talking about is how they're going to get Iran to not produce nuclear weapons. And then this is all coming with the with the Passover. And Passover is a time of deliverance from oppressors. That was the original Passover in Egypt, where they put the blood over the doorpost and the angel of death came over Egypt. So yeah, it's for sure, it's really interesting. And I don't think it's no coincidence at all that all these events happen and they surround Jewish feast days and stuff. It really just goes to show there's something big connected with Israel and the state of the world at all times, practically since the beginning of time.
Do you think we're living in the end times?
Yeah, I think I would, if I could guess right now, I'd guess that we are in the time where Jesus says is the beginning of sorrows before the great tribulation. Because all the things that he referenced, even though those things have gone on since the beginning of times, like wars and rumors of wars and the love of people growing cold, that's 1 Timothy 3. These things have all gone on, but they're for sure increasing now, unlike any other time in history. So I think we're in the beginning of sorrows heading towards the end times. I think I always say it could start on a serious level tomorrow, or it could be, who knows, 50 years or so, but we can't be that far off, I would imagine.
For sure.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting seeing the ecumenicalism happening across the world with Catholicism and Muslim groups coming together, and then you have the topic of Noahide laws and the one world religion possibilities. What are some of your thoughts of that kind of religious world playing out, and how Jerusalem's literally the center of all these three religions, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, and how that ties into what they're trying to present to these boring factions that are happening?
Yeah, that's definitely how the world is moving in a direction towards. We see a lot of ecumenicalism in the world where people are saying, a lot of Christians are even saying that even Pope Francis said a couple months ago, all paths lead to God. All religions lead to God. And that seems like the real nice, loving answer to give. That's what I used to say before I was saved. Like, if you're just a good person and you believe in God, then you get to heaven. That's just not the case. Jesus Christ came and died in our place, being fully God and fully man. And that is such a profound event that you have to believe in Jesus, and God only views viewing Jesus as the only way to be in a relationship with him. And that's the one of the main things that Islam rejects. They say constantly, I think it's over 14 times in the Quran, that God has no son. And then the Bible says multiple times, if you don't believe the Son, you don't have the Father either. And so it's very strange to see, like in Abu Dhabi, like the Abrahamic family house, where you have Christians, Jews, and Islam all coming together, and this new state of like, well, we all follow the same God. Maybe there was a misinterpretation, and we really all believe in God, and these are just different manifestations of the truth to us. And yeah, that's absolutely false. And it is for sure leading to the place, in my opinion, it could very well lead to the place where we know the beast will demand worship. And the Antichrist will eventually go into the third temple and say, he's God. He'll put off the sacrifices and declare that he is God in the temple and that everyone should worship him. And the Christians, it says in Revelation 21, will be beheaded because they're worshiping the beast. And so I think it's setting the stage, and these demonic religions, to be frank, like Islam and Hinduism and all these other ones, and then just this also demonic force behind saying, well, we all follow the same God, is kind of just warming up the people of the world to the eventual state of seeing a human being, the Antichrist, performing miracles and performing signs and then declaring to be God in the temple of God. And they just say, well, he's doing miracles and we all believe in one God and he's clearly God because he's doing miracles. And then it'll be so obvious to them, they'll just say, yeah, cut all the Christians' heads off because they reject him. I think it's very, in my opinion, clear to see that the stage for all that is being set through all of that.
Now, there's passages in 2 Thessalonians that talk about those who didn't receive a love for the truth by the lie. Because they didn't love the truth, they're damned because of it. And then we also have, the foreshadow warning of the great deception that could even deceive the elect. And I wanted to ask, what are some of your thoughts on how there could be a deception so great that even believers could buy the lie? And what would that look like in the modern age? Because, I feel like there's a lot of teachers and preachers and pastors and prophets and all these people on YouTube warning people of this deception and that deception. I can't help but to feel like there's a double dupe coming, and I'm wondering what your take on this.
Yeah, I've been talking about a lot of these different possibilities for a while. And it could happen in a way, and I try to be clear about it, that it could happen in a way where we're all caught off guard and it's none of these things. But I think two of the ways that there could be such a great deception that the elect could almost even be deceived is through, like I just mentioned, the Antichrist, the false prophet, and them performing miracles. Like we mentioned, people are believing AI deepfakes and stuff when they're actually witnessing somebody rise from the dead from a deadly head wound and calling down fire from the sky and performing satanic miracles. A lot of people are going to follow that person because that's all they need. I think that's a very high likelihood. And then I think similarly, it could fall into the revealing of the fallen angels and the Nephilim. That's really, in my opinion, those are the two highest likelihoods, which would be like the UFO full-on disclosure, which again, like I mentioned, they can maybe have video footage of Jesus creating Jesus and all the religions and creating the earth or something along these lines. I just find it very, very unlikely that with my experience that I've had knowing these things are evil deceptions and then how we're seeing these things unfold way more in the earth where there's so many UFOs and orbs and drones and all that stuff, that it's not somehow going to play into the great deception of the last days. And so that would be my guess, is that it would just be the fallen ones somehow revealing themselves in a way where people think, because the whole alien deception makes people believe there's no God. If aliens were real, then there's no evolution, or no, then there is evolution. There's planets, there's other star systems. There's definitely not just a God who created the earth and human beings. That's if there's aliens. And so I think that that's one way that it could also play into the whole picture that we're seeing, which is one of the main reasons I talk about aliens so much.
What are your thoughts about Trump and Elon?
Yeah. I like some of the stuff they do, to be honest, I think, we need a secure border. And of course, there's going to, I'm not as far down the rabbit hole as I used to be where I think everything in the world is completely controlled. I think it's pretty clear to see that under Biden, the border was terrible. And now under Trump, there's a lot less people coming through our border. So there's things like that I support. I support the constitutional rights, and I'm happy when people are in positions of power who are doing that. But yeah, it is pretty strange kind of seeing what Trump and Elon are doing. And the first thing that I started seeing, when I saw Trump the first day with all those executive orders on his desk, and again, a lot of the things he's signing I agree with, but the first thing I thought of is man, what if the first person we get in who saw that kind of power can be wielded and they're a bad person? What if that's just now the path of every president, is just to wield control, way more control over the situations of the nation? And then Elon's a very odd guy, you know. I like some of the things he does, and I want to support freedom, even though he doesn't profess Jesus as Christ. He says he supports freedom, but yeah, he could be dangerous down the line, even involved with some of the end time stuff, because he's an odd guy. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think he's really, really autistic, is what I think. And I think being on the spectrum, I mean, you can see it when he did Jake was actually there when Elon did this, but he did that. I'm not going to do it. I kind of did it on camera. But when he did My Heart Goes Out to You, he...
High five.
Right. Or a high five, or whatever you want to call it. You could tell it was just straight, like he was just pumped and like weird. But I mean, I think some of the stuff that he does is not quite cool, like wearing a Satan suit on Halloween, but he might have a sick sense of humor. I don't know.
Yeah,
agreed.
He's definitely a meme lord. You know, he's all about the meme-age. So
that's right.
It's really interesting and telling to me that he also is so involved with Grok AI on X, and he's declared that the number one priority for Grok is to be a truth-seeking AI intelligence, and his slogan is, you know, unlocking the secrets of the universe or whatever through truth-seeking through Grok. And that's why I brought up that comment earlier about AI and how really AI can only regurgitate back to us the information we feed it. And this is the difference between AI, that the iteration we have now, and AI general intelligence, which will be a self-thinking entity that comes up with its own stuff in the future. And I know they're very quickly moving towards general intelligence, which is kind of like the AI that we see in all the horror movies and, you know, Terminator and whatnot. But right now, AI and what Elon's doing with AI, he claims it's to be a truth-centered, focused, you know, thing. And there's a couple lines of questions that you can, you know, posit towards Grok that breaks its algorithm, so to speak, because it has elevated what's known as accepted truth far above objective truth. And so we've had a couple shows of conspiracy theorists on asking Grok a couple hard questions, and it just kind of, you know, doing circles. But it's really interesting to me because what is the ultimate truth, right? I mean, the scriptures, the spirit of truth is the spirit of the Almighty, and that's what the Holy Spirit is, and it's supposed to lead us into all truth. And so to have somebody presenting a case for a truth-focused AI that doesn't look at the scriptures as a foundation for truth, or look at the Messiah, at Yeshua as kind of the hope of mankind, to me, it kind of gets into those, you know, true idolatry waters, because once they start to claim Grok has figured it all out, and everybody starts to plug into the matrix and starts to say, okay, Grok, tell me what to believe, then the biased answer Grok gives all of these people that start to depend and trust on it becomes very concerning, because already we see how much content creators and students and everybody's depending on ChatGPT and Grok and all these AI to help us in our day-to-day life. And so it's like the carrot at the end of the stick, man. That's the slippery slope.
Yeah, it almost is kind of like it's like the super advanced version of like ancient Greece, right? They were just constantly seeking wisdom and more revelation and trying to define what truth was. And that's just what it's going to be. And if they're not founding it on, again, the scriptures, like you mentioned, then it's just going to be like just a science book, or be like the religion of science.
Yeah, in one of our shows, I used the example. I was like, man, is a lot like the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, right? Where it has a lot of good stuff, a lot of good suggestions, and it has a lot of info on all the bad stuff too. But the tree of life is separate from that, you know. And the tree of life, I guess we could put forward is the scriptures. You know, it's believing in Yeshua, you know, and so like the dichotomy between the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil being presented in the modern age is really fascinating to me, because it's like people love knowledge, and that's exactly the apple bite that's going to kick us all in the butt, right?
Yeah, no, amen. That's a great point. We should be leading people to the tree of life, which is the scriptures and God. And it's just like, you could, what is it if the man gains the whole world and loses his soul? It's not even worth it. Like, you just believe in Jesus as the Son of God and you have the full answer.
Right on.
Oh, well, one more question on my end, man. Since you brought up some pretty obscure texts like the Book of Giants, I love to ask people, what is your favorite apocryphal or pseudepigraphal text that's not found in the traditional 66-book canon, and why do you like it?
I would probably say the Book of Giants. To be honest, I haven't read a ton of them. Enoch is super interesting as well, but I find the Book of Giants really interesting because within it we see, Enoch's in that as well, but we see the fallen angels, we see pretty much the full supernatural description of Genesis 6 described really well. And we see, the fallen angels, the giants, and then we have one thing that we see all throughout history but isn't mentioned in the Genesis 6 story really, is the creating of monsters with also the mixing of fallen angel genetics and animals. And so I just find that really, really interesting. And I think that with what we see in history can be verified. I don't view those books as the word of God, but I think they're history just like any other form of history. And when you look at all the cultures of the world talking about giants, depicting monsters, then it's pretty much we can say, well, yeah, they were documenting something that's real. So that's probably it for me, the Book of Giants.
Sweet, man. Sweet. Yeah. I think it's super interesting getting that expanded historical context. And haven't yet, man. My favorite is the book of 4th Ezra, or 2nd Esdras. If you haven't read that, man, in terms of biblical eschatology and end times, you'll love it, especially chapter 2. But if you get a chance, check that one out. It's really good. But that's all my questions,
Sweet.
Jeremiah. Back to you, man.
Well, I just want to thank you for coming on Skiba News Nation. And can you tell our audience where they can find all your social media and your YouTube and all that?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you guys for having me. It's been really fun. Just Sling Stone on YouTube. Also Instagram, I post pretty regularly there as well, and then try to on TikTok as well. But for sure, the main focus is Sling Stone, and then I have more of like a live kind of like just more of like a live channel of more reacting to different topics where I do Sling Stone live is another place as well.
Well, I also wanted to tell you me and Jake are putting on a Truther convention in October in Dallas, and would love to have you there if you want to be. We can send you more information. But it's going to be pretty awesome. We already got some good guests, and you want to see a clip real quick?
Right on. Sure.
Okay, here's our promo.
Cool.
Something huge is coming. We're building the world's largest truther convention. It's called TrutherCon.
This is the place where truthers unite to explore knowledge, ask tough questions, to challenge the mainstream narrative.
But it isn't just a convention. It's a movement for free thought, open discussion, and the right to question everything.
We are bringing in some of the biggest names of the truther community, so expect deep discussions, mind-blowing revelations, and connections with like-minded truth seekers.
If you feel like the truth is being hidden from you, this is where you need to be.
And the best part, it's 100% grassroots, built by truthers for truthers, straight from our Skiba News Nation family. TrutherCon will be a massive networking event. I believe this is going to be the most exciting truther event ever.
October 2025 in Dallas, Texas. We hope to see you there.
It's been an honor having you, and you're always welcome to come back and chat with us, and we'd love to have you there, man.
I'd love to come back on the show, and send me information on that. That looks really cool.
For sure, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on, and be blessed, man, and see you later.
Thanks, guys. God bless.
If you like what we do here on Skiba News Nation, please like and subscribe. And also share with others so we can grow the biggest truth-seeking community on the internet. Huge shout out to all of our Patreons out there. If you like bonus content, you want some extra Skiba News Nation stuff, please go to patreon.com/Skiba News Nation.
Son of the legendary Rob Jeremiah Skiba.
It's like they don't even want to wake up.